never accept a gift from the same guy who sold that dude the Mogwai and it became the Gremlin. Everything has rules. So, today, we're going to talk about something that's not so much a interactive theory, but more in the realm of interpretation. So, we're going to look at what how about this? Instead of let's just say what are we going to look at, because you already know because you saw the title of it. Let's kind of look at a question or a series of questions that lead to this. What's something that video games have that not really any other mediums have? Interactivity. What is something that you could use within a video game to explore other neat things? It's interactivity. Now what is something else you can mess around with to create these ideas of mechanics and of metaphor and allegory? The game itself. Now I know exactly what you're going to say that response, which is, "Oh my God, Chris, we know video games can tell us things." No, but you're gonna listen because you're already here, and it's probably because you're at the end of your rope. I have no idea where you're listening to me, but I still cite my sources. So, video games give us a real neat medium to explore metaphors because we engage with the game. And there are multiple different levels that we can engage with on that. So rather than just reading a text that literature and poetry and prose gives us, or rather than just watching it, such as what film will do for us, we get a neat thing where we have several points of contact. We watch what happens with the story. There sometimes is text to read, but we also engage with the world. And within that engagement in the world, you can see that through that engagement, metaphor can occur. Such as, here, let me find a picture and let's take a look at it. Now, let's look at this guy on the left right here. This is an iconic mascot, if you will, of the Silent Hill video game series. He shows up in the second one, and he is basically a monster that runs around and rips the skin off people. He also likes long walks on the beach and reading poetry. But the question that I can bring up here is the character on the right, his name is James. James is dealing with the guilt of what happened with his ill wife up until her death, which he had a hand in. And over time, throughout the series, you discover that he's not a good guy. He was bitter at his wife's illness. He had sexual repression. He had anger. And he was so upset, and he allowed himself to be so selfish as to believe that he was entitled to more. Pyramid Head is a representation of that sexual aggression of his toxic sexual identity, because he wanted that out of his wife. Now, Pyramid Head in the game runs around and chases you with that sword. But when you look at it as a whole, that's kind of one of the neat things of an unstoppable, powerful character is a monster that he can't get away from. And it will never leave him alone until he's either able to die or come to terms with what he has done and accept the fact that he is a monster as well. So now I'm going to take this away from that really depressing about 2 minutes, and we're going to talk about one of the coolest guys in this area. We're going to talk about Gonzalo Frasca. He is a game designer, and he studies ludology. which is the study of gameplay and mechanics and things that make a video game work. There's been this massive debate of whether or not ludology or narratology, which narratology is the study of narrative, whether or not one is more important than the other. And he pretty much states that they are meant to complement each other. And mechanics' metaphor really exemplifies this. In his paper, Ludologists Love Stories 2, he comes into the idea of, in case any doubts still remain about ludology's intentions of peacefully coexisting with narratology, I also added that my purpose was not to replace the narratologic approach, but to complement it. This core idea here is what gives us what we're working with now. We have the ability to explore all of these old literary conventions, metaphor, allegory, satire, by even verse. We could look at these things in vastly new ways simply because we have ability to control what we're doing. But we can also have ways in which that controlling fights back. Another neat part of Silent Hill 2 is you are not a fighter. You are just a normal guy stuck in a very destructive, evil, dark world. And the game's controls match this. You suck at fighting in this game. The controls are horrible, but they're intentionally horrible because they're trying to purvey that sense of hopelessness, that sense that you are weak and small and you will die here. And it allows the game to really promote the idea that combat is not the way to overcome this. So in one fell swoop, you have a powerful metaphor done through the mechanics and a guiding of a potential way to play the game through the same mechanics. And this is really what makes video games really neat, is because they kind of stand on this. And this is one of their interesting things that allows them to work alone on it. And I think this is a good place to let this one kind of sit. Now, rather than kind of give you this overarching thing to think about that leads into this and kind of gives you an idea of what you want to do, I'm going to just ask you something. I want you to either go find a video game you like, if you don't have a system to play, if you don't have anything like that, go find a Let's Play. Go find something that's a video game with a story and it has mechanics. Take a look and look at the mechanics. Look at what the actual doings in the game do. And see, is there something there? Does the factor that you upgrade using the blood of your enemies in Bloodborne mean anything? Or the souls of the fallen in Dark Souls? Does that mean something? Does the factor that in Metroid, Samus progressively has different suits to give her to kind of set the tone of what the narrative in that area is supposed to be? Think about these things. Think about what the character is doing and engaging with the mechanics of the game. Think about what that contributes to the story overall and what story that tells in itself. So, you guys have a good day. Thanks for watching, and remember, I keep it Neil.